One thing I've always been curious about is it really that important to field dress a deer or gut it like as soon as possible if it's really cold weather? Hello world, Will White here, Pike Antler Survival School, bringing you a very unusual video today. The first time ever I'm intentionally creating a video in which I don't know the actual objective or outcome, or don't even have a theory that I actually care about. So the point of this video is to discover. So I'm gonna make some discoveries as I'm recording this, because I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm wrong time to time, you're wrong, everyone's wrong time to time. I'll give you an example. Hardwood and softwood. Most of us believe that a hardwood tree means it's a really hard wood, and a softwood means it's really soft. It's not accurate. It has nothing to do with really the hardness of the wood. It has to do with the hardness and easiness of getting to the seed, the fruit. So I like to question things, and one thing I've always been curious about is it really that important to field dress a deer or gut it like as soon as possible if it's really cold weather? In my mind, I'm thinking, well, if everything stays cold, then we should be fine. If the meat's good to, age for 30, 40 days at 35 degrees Fahrenheit, then why would the organs be any different? Now I understand there's more bacteria in the gut, so my theory is that will have an effect on the internal organs of this deer rotting. What I want to find out is what happens if I don't field dress a deer in the cold. If I'm out hunting, let's say a survival situation, I down a deer, maybe I'll get lucky and I down 2 or 3. Well, if it's really cold, what's the rush? Do I really need to go and field dress that deer if, let's say, it's 25 degrees outside? I don't know. Textbook would say absolutely. So my understanding, the big deal about field dressing or gutting a deer as soon as possible is essentially to preserve the meat. You want the meat to cool as quick as possible. So generally what we do, or what I do, I'll go ahead and take the guts out because they're warm and I don't eat much of them anyway. Because the whole belly, right, is gonna keep these thighs warmer longer. So if we can get these warm guts out, open up the body, let the meat cool, preserving your meat. That's the whole objective, is to pretty much preserve the meat. And also you don't want inflammation or gas expansion. And it's just a safer thing to do. But I want to find out what happens if we don't field dress the deer immediately. This was a roadkill. So we're about to find out what happens if you don't field dress the deer immediately, but keep it cold. I found this deer one morning. I saw 2 people talking on the side of the road looking at this dead deer. So I pulled up and asked what's going on. They said they saw it get hit last night. It landed in the yard and died. So when I approached the next morning, it was, I don't know, low 30 degrees Fahrenheit. I approached it and it looked a lot like this. Like the belly wasn't swollen, nothing smelled bad. Rigor mortis had already taken its process. It's already came and gone. So I figured what better time than now to find out what happens if we don't field dress the deer immediately, but keep it cold. So it got hit in cold weather. I salvaged it in cold weather. I brought it straight home into my aging cooler, kept it at 32 degrees for about 3 weeks. So this guy got hit. I put him in the cooler. It's been 3 weeks. So we're gonna find out what happens if this is preserved in cold temperatures for 3 weeks. Is the meat ruined? I don't know. Is it gonna smell horrible? I don't know. So I want to find out if the internal organs are sour. Did it rot the meat? I can tell as I pick this up that the connective tissue holding all the organs in place are kind of giving out. They're kind of dying off on me because the organs feel like they're hanging much lower when I hang the deer. Let's get started. I don't know if you can really see the coloring, but it doesn't look like good coloring. And I do not intend to eat this. But another really good thing about this, if we are in a survival situation, it's been cold for a few weeks, steady, we find an animal, this will kind of help us better gauge the edibility of this animal by doing this experiment. And he got hit on his back left. And I suspect this meat in here is going to be gross. And some of it is, but below that, the meat looks actually pretty good. And we'll take a chunk out here in a minute and give it a smell test. Again, I'm not saving this meat. So now at the neck, we're at the neck, this is the throat. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut here instead of getting my arms in the chest cavity. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut to the spine. That way I have the airway right here. And when I get to the gutting process, I can actually stick my finger in here and pull, and everything comes out together. It's awesome. But the point of this video is to see how the innards go. We're just finding out what would happen if we... Ooh, that stinks! Ugh! Okay. That's disgusting. All right, that's disgusting. Now we know. Yeah, so it looks like this is probably ruptured from impact of the vehicle. So that's gonna put a kink in this operation. But we're just gonna go as best we can. This is not a video on how to do this properly, cleanly. So I'm not exercising perfect technique. Well, it stinks. Good Lord, that stinks. That's disgusting. So I would say definitely the organs are disturbed, but the issue with this experiment now is animal was hit here. It's clear that these organs have been traumatized. This is all just mush. So that changes the experiment. I'd say roadkill, the organs are definitely going to be nasty. I think if they were preserved in their natural casings, not ruptured, this would be a different story. So in this situation, I've learned with impact, it's even if you keep it cold, it's going to rot. It may seem like common sense, but again, like, do you actually know? I would have assumed this is the case, but I want to confirm. Again, you know, people have been wrong about things. I've been wrong about things. So if you're in a survival situation, you want to harvest the organs, you know, somehow got hit by a vehicle and you were able to get it in the cold, the organs are going to be nasty. So that's disgusting. Oh, wow. The heart is, that stinks so badly. Heart feels good, but I can smell it. Ugh, disgusting. Okay, so the internal organs, definitely no good. Now, let's check some meat. Oh my God, it stinks so bad. I don't know if it's this meat or the innards. So the meat actually looks pretty good. Looks good. Feels like good meat. Actually smells okay. It's got a little stinkiness to it. I don't know if it's my hand. Yeah, in any survival situation, I would for sure. I would eat that. I would eat it. It doesn't smell bad, doesn't smell good. It actually smells fine. Wow. That actually smells good. Okay. No question about it in any survival situation, but I eat this 100%, zero doubt. I can't measure the bacteria in this animal. All I can do is look at sight and smell and feel. Like the meat feels normal, it feels fine. It's got a little bit of rigidity to it, like a deer should, like that amount of rigidity. It smells fine, doesn't smell great, doesn't smell terrible. It's just like, just smells just a little off. So shoulder, I would say, is edible. But the big question sits with the rear end. Why is that? Because all the trauma took place down here. So I'm going to assume this broken leg, the meat's it's going to be damaged. But I'm more curious about this bottom leg that I don't think got impact. I don't think got traumatized by impact. So since all the internal organs kind of settle kind of all the way down towards the genitals and the anus, I have a feeling some of this meat closer to the organs is going to be kind of sour. So let's find out. We'll go with the trauma leg first, just because it's here. Oh yeah, got some discoloration there. A little discolored, but nothing ridiculous. I still see some good red in there. So let's keep going. I have not deemed that inedible. Again, you're not going to find an animal to get hit by a car in a survival situation. A shit hits the fan situation? Yeah, very likely. Assuming vehicles still work. So it looks like trauma's down here. You can see where it is in relation to the body. So I'm imagining some of this meat is spoiled just from contact. But I don't know that. Common sense would say it is, but common sense isn't always right. I'm gonna expose some of this meat. I'm gonna go ahead and cut a good 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch of meat off, just to expose what's beneath all this discoloration. Oh yeah, that's super discolored. That's trauma to the extremity. Okay, so you can see the discoloration there. I'm actually just going to avoid smelling it because I don't know how the bacteria growth works and how, if it can be transferred through breath. So I'm just going to cut this stuff, get it out of the way. I'm just going to go ahead and cut into this muscle and take some out and see what we see. So to me, that looks excellent. Excellent meat. That's a little sour. Yeah, that's yeah, edible. Undecided. That's my other thing I'm curious about, is how the meat tastes, or how the meat smells once we get deeper into it. Oh, yep, there's the broken femur right there. God, that looks painful. Okay, so again, this is the trauma side. Now we can get into the depth of the meat. So this is the medial part, or the inner thigh. Outer thighs down at the bottom, out of sight. So I'm going to cut in between. I'm going to cut 2 inches of meat off medially, so from the inside of the thigh. Getting rid of all this. You can see the color difference. We got pinkish, reddish, like meat color, but then we got a little bit of grayness to it, which is likely just oxygenation or oxidation. Whew, that's stinky too. But it could be all the meat around it. So I'm gonna cut this piece off. Now, you know, it's really questionable. It's very questionable. It does have that little bit of sourness. It actually smells a little bit like guts. If you ever gut shot an animal or accidentally cut the internal organs, the intestines. Serving this to a group of friends, I would say no. If I'm starving to death, I would eat this comfortably, as long as I would cook it well. So I'm cleaning my knife enough that I don't have the scent of anything nasty. Yeah, it still smells a little funny. So I'll make sure to rinse this. Okay, yeah. So what I don't want to do is have my blade covered in something stinky, cut meat, and then smell that meat and have an off smell. I don't want it to be because I have a dirty knife. So rinsed it, wiped it down. Let's get into it. Okay, so definitely discolored. Don't like that at all. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take off a good 1/2 inch layer to get to the deeper meat. Well, that's still discolored under that layer. So I'm gonna go a little farther. Again, this is the leg that was not hit, as far as I know. There does look like some coagulated blood here. So maybe the bone punctured the hide. Yeah, it looks like there's something occurred there. The dark red blood, looks like a little slice in there. So, I don't know. It's a hamstring. I don't know, but looks like something occurred there, because all this discolored meat right here tells me some sort of trauma, some sort of impact. Who knows? Could have been an antler. Maybe lost a fight and the other buck was, poking him in the butt as he was running away. Okay, so I'm cutting out a good amount of meat. But I'm gonna go ahead and smell this. Again, it just smells a little sour. Not so bad that I wouldn't eat it in a survival situation. Yeah, I would rinse that, cook it, and eat it. Rinse it, cook it well, and eat it. But I want to see if we can find some meat that just smells wonderful. Which sounds like not likely. But let's see. Looks like a nice piece of meat. Yeah, this side's a little sour. The outside, but the inside, it's hard to freaking tell because everything stinks. Yeah, it's stinky. It's funny, as the deeper it is, the stinkier it seems to be. Yeah, that's weird. I really assumed the inside would be less stinky than the outside. Well, the deeper we go, the less stinky it would get. But so far, that's not the case. Let's go a little deeper, see if we can find any meat in here that's non-stinky. Oh, looks like there's some blood in there. Okay, so he's hit. Okay. Not sure what that is. This leg doesn't seem... Oh, no, that one doesn't seem healthy either. Might have a break in this one too. So this is about as deep as I can go. I came in about 2 inches deep from the medial or inside of the thigh. Now I only got about 1.5 inches of meat on the back side. So I'm pretty much in the center. So this is the one last attempt. Man, my hands, it's kind of hard to do because my hands stink. So I'm just gonna do this. Yeah, that's stinky. That one's gross. Seems like the deeper I get, the worse it gets. So let's go to the other end and see. All right, so this is the farthest away we can get from the internal organs, the neck. So let's see what happens when we get to the neck. So far, everything looks pretty normal. Oh, that's just not the aorta, the carotid artery, I believe. Yeah, this is just coagulated, congealed blood. Let's see how that smells. Little pro tip: if you harvest an animal, a big one, in a survival situation, gather as much blood as you can. Everything that's fueling this mammal will fuel us. A lot of the important stuff is in the blood, the really important vitamins and minerals. So don't be scared to drink some blood. I prefer to cook it. Kind of turns into this like a crepe, C-R-E-P-E. Okay, so let's give this a smell. That's disgusting. Let's get into some meat. I don't really smell much. That side's a little stinky, but that doesn't smell really any which way. It smells pretty neutral. Would I eat this in survival? Yes, I would. That smells fine to me. Doesn't smell bad. That smells fine. The backside of the neck seems to be in good shape. This I would consider actually normal meat. Nothing really questionable about it at all. Sweet. Now let's go to the back strap because I know everyone's curious about the back strap. Okay, so looks like it's trauma there, confirming where he's been hit. Lower extremity, pretty much at the bottom of the rib cage down, has been damaged. So we're gonna ignore that. I'm just gonna come up to the meat of the back strap and just cut out a chunk, and we'll see what we see. That's nice. Piece out of here. Pretty neutral. Let's cut into the center of it. I know, don't cut towards yourself. Shut up. I trust myself. And plus, I've been touching the outside with my gloves, so this will be as good of a sample as we can find. It's a little stinky. It's questionable, but hey, survival, I'd say check, eat it. All right, so let's close out this topic. Discovery is some of this meat is salvageable. In a survival setting, would I gather this? Is it worth the energy? 100%, absolutely. Just knowing your protein in your brain, without protein in your brain, the synapses have no way to connect those nerves. So signals stop sending to your extremities, meaning you start dropping your knife. You can't really function very well with your extremities, nor your thinking. So protein is key. So would I harvest this? Would I collect this? Yeah, I would. But I would also know that it's a good chance I'm losing the majority of this meat. But I would say roadkill, there's definitely some edibility to it if it stays cold, even if the internal organs are ruptured. This definitely ruined some of the meat, but there's still some meat that's edible. I would feel pretty good about the inside of the meat, inside of the bone, the marrow. I would feel pretty confident that we'd be all right consuming that. But let's find out. Now, why would I be spending the time to even answer this question? Is the marrow good? Sodium, man. Protein and sodium, I don't think they get talked about enough. Because without protein, our body stops sending signals. So we stop functioning. And without enough sodium, we start cramping. And we stop thinking well. So, where do we find a good amount of sodium and protein in the wild? You're looking at it. Marrow. Plus, marrow is pretty delicious. And they're packed with sodium and a bunch of other stuff. So you want to make bone broth, by all means. What I'm saying is, if you're stuck in a survival situation, my favorite parts of this animal that are most nutritious, you got the bone marrow, you got the liver, and the blood. The rest of it is essentially meat. There's obviously room for argument in there. That's not end of story. But that's my 2 cents. Let me take out some marrow. Yeah, it's hard to tell now. Actually, That bone smells fine. Actually, bone smells pretty good. I'm gonna take some of this out. Tastes like marrow to me. So that's a good thing to know. I'm glad I took that extra few minutes to research that or experiment and go ahead and cut into it. Again, the marrow is super packed with nutrients, more than the meat itself. So being able to salvage even the bones, depending on your situation, and this animal might be just not smelling good at all, but the bone and the marrow may still be good. So again, if you're dying from hunger and malnutrition, but you have the energy to get to the bone, I would say it's worth it. So in closing, in this situation, animal hit, stored in cold weather since basically I found it. So I would say it's been in 32 degrees-ish, solid for 2 weeks. From time of death until now, it's been in 32 degrees. I'd say we probably lost at least a third of the meat. I'd say a third of it smells fairly fine, and the other third is kind of questionable. But if I was starving to death, that questionable third I would consume. So I would say on this situation, roughly 2/3 of the meat is still good-ish. May only be half. So at the end of the day, is it worth the energy in this particular situation? In a survival situation, there's absolutely positively zero doubt in my mind this is worth the energy. On top of that, I could salvage the hide for clothing, make myself warm, coats, smoking meat, blah, blah, blah. The bones for tools, marrow for fuel, the hooves for glue, sinew for connective tissue, also sinew for making really good cordage for a bow and arrow or anything else you got to secure. Got the meat on the head we can still check, meat on the ribs, or if you don't want to do all this and you have some sort of weapon or trap system, lay this out in the field, wait for vultures to come. But know that killing vultures is often illegal because they do play a huge role in our ecosystem. But you can use this guy for bait. You can use the bones to make tools and hooks, weapons. We also have the meat. We have the organs. The liver's probably shot, so I wouldn't mess with any of the organs in here at all. No doubt, I would leave the organs and not eat them at all. Maybe use them for bait. Thanks for watching. If you want to keep taking your education to the next level, hit subscribe for me and hit it for you. But in the meantime, stay alive as long as you can.